Good morning. You are seeing me literally in my bed this morning. And I noticed Beth Mortali, yes, had written. I didn't see it until just now. Mary, we've had 3 readings, but I don't think you know that Ron and I worked at Gulf Coast ER, and that's where we met. So you said your son was there. I was shocked. Welcome to Coffee with Mare. Coffee with Mary Rose. So I have water right now, and I'll explain what happened. Um, so originally, I thought I would come on and talk about signs. And then I also was like, well, maybe I'll talk about birthdays because I have a funny story about how birthdays are pretty special and spiritually, it really is a brand new trip around the sun. But then I was wanting to tell you about what happened yesterday, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I wanted it. And then I look, and then Beth has written something that relates to what I was wanting to talk about from last night. So welcome to Coffee Mary with Mary Rose. Remember, I will never reach out to you for readings. I will never spam your account and say FaceTime me or friend me. I will never do that. That's one of the reasons I'm on YouTube, because Facebook used to do that and there was a lot of problems, and I don't want those problems. I'm actually holding one of my mugs that I've created on my website, maryrosemedium.com. And I just love this saying, I'll see you in a minute. And um, so I created a mug. This is weird. It's an opposite mirrored camera, but this is my mug. So I love that. I'll see you in a minute. And it does tie into last night and also what Beth has written about. So I ran up to see the kids this weekend in New York. Really quick, John. Oh, good morning. You're awesome, Greg. Good morning. I ran up to see the kids in New York for the weekend. A quick Saturday, Sunday, Monday, left. And my son brought me to the airport. It was like 10 o'clock in the morning. I got there, delayed, another delay, and another delay. I was there for 4 hours. No big deal. Brought my laptop, did some work, finished my newsletter for this week that comes out tomorrow morning, by the way. Excuse me. And then I had a flight going from Syracuse to Raleigh-Durham to switch planes. And I got there and the weather was so bad. It was another 5.5 hours. So I didn't get home until 4 a.m. And I set my alarm so I could get up and have coffee with y'all, or water in this case, as I said. And so I'm sitting in my bed with my water, with my mug, telling you the story. I was, of course, at the airport for a very long time, and I absolutely was thinking of my son, Cameron. As you may or may not know, Cameron was born with a single ventricle. And he had 4 open heart surgeries, 2 pacemakers. He had multiple cardiac catheterizations, other surgeries as well, not related. He was incredible. You wouldn't know it. Cameron was happy. And so we spent a month, he spent a month at Northwestern Hospital in Chicago, where he lived the month prior to his expansion into God's arms. He chose to come to Florida to be around family. He said, my brother Brandon, I know it'll be easier for Brandon to fly in. Everyone else is there. The doctors and nurses, of course, did not want that. They really were encouraging him sweetly. There's a hospice center right around the corner. It doesn't look like a hospital. Nope, he wouldn't even let them finish. Nope, I want to go to Florida. So his stepfather, my ex-husband, and I brought him back to Florida. We were on, I'm just going to say it, we were on Spirit Airlines. I can say it because I've reached out to them and they said they'd done nothing wrong. Technically, they didn't. Humanly, you can tell me. And Beth, this does tie into what you asked. He, I haven't told this story. So we had an Uber come. It was, I think, 5 a.m. to Northwestern to pick all of us up, a comfortable van to bring us to O'Hare to fly directly to RSW in Fort Myers. We got to the airport and there wasn't a wheelchair in sight. So Rich and the Uber driver, of course, hung out with Kim. I ran in, I found a wheelchair, ran it out. Now, I had called the airport, set up arrangements. No one was there. I had talked to Spirit Airlines myself for an hour or half an hour. They, prior to all of this, they set us up with even better seats closer to the front. I think we were like row 4. Thought I did everything right. We get to the airport and we're delayed at Chicago. We're delayed for 3.5 hours. My son had nowhere to lay down. He kept saying, I'm okay, I'm okay. Lots of stuff happened. We get on the plane. We finally land. Just before we land, a flight attendant came over and, clearly could see Cameron had a pump on him with medication. He also had cannulas for oxygen. Clearly, he had an oxygen portable tank with him. Everything was set up beautifully. And so the flight attendant came over and said, how much oxygen is left? We looked at the amount. We gave her the amount. She nodded. Yes, okay. She looked at me and kind of motioned to his cardiac pump. And I said, yes, he's got this medicine. And we landed and I looked at my son and put my arm around him and I said, knowing what you know now after this whole day, would you have still chose this? He said, yes, absolutely. And I said, okay, that made me feel better. Because I don't know if I would have at the moment. So we landed at RSW. And instead of getting the wheelchair for my son, they announced anyone with a wheelchair, who was only him, because we were the first ones on with a wheelchair. We're the only ones with a wheelchair. They said, anyone with a wheelchair, please wait till everyone exits the plane. And my son said he couldn't feel his feet. At this point, again, we're row 4 now because they upgraded us to row 4. You have to wait for everyone in the back of the plane who are just flying like a herd of elephants to get off the plane, down the aisle. I jumped out and was on the other side of the aisle looking at my son and looking at Rich like, I can't believe this. I'm trying to get someone's attention. People are just flying by. Packed plane. We got off of, they all got off. Sorry, I'm a little nervous talking about this because anyway, I don't remember everything, but Rich does. And I will say this, by the time everyone was off the plane, my son was out of oxygen. And I'm not screaming, but I am very adamant to the flight attendants. There's now 2 of them at the front looking at me. And they said, do you need a wheelchair? Yes, I need a wheelchair. We came on with a wheelchair. It's on his, yes, he's out of oxygen. Someone comes on with a wheelchair and it wasn't the right wheelchair. And they said they couldn't pick him up. And then they were going to go get someone else to help. And the whole time I'm screaming, he's we got to go. Let's go. I kept saying. They came back on. Now it's two people, two women. Not very nice. They were not very, must not like their jobs. I don't know. They went to grab my son under his arms, and I said, "No, don't do that. You have to be gentle with him." And he also had some problems going on with his back. He's very brittle, and they sort of rolled their eyes and they said, "Well, we're just going to have to call." They mentioned somebody they have to call, and the whole time I'm like, "Tick tock, what are we doing here?" And they said, "Well, they'll be here in a minute." And I was like waiting and waiting, and then I blacked out, and I woke back up when I was on the is it the bridge between the airplane and the and RSW airport itself. Apparently, during that blackout, my ex-husband Rich tells me I lifted my son myself and I carried him myself from his seat all the way off of the plane until I found a wheelchair to place him in. I did that. Don't remember that. I do remember going towards him thinking, I know this is going to hurt, but it will save him. I do remember that. I don't remember anything else except for waking up on that bridge with him sitting in the wheelchair. I don't remember putting him in the wheelchair. And he was weeping from his feet were weeping, his legs were weeping. By that point, someone, a wonderful gentleman who led the team at RSW, it's like their ambulance crew, so to speak. I'm not sure the name. Maybe someone here knows the name. He was great. I remember him kneeling next to my son when I woke up, as I said, and he looked up at me and he said, "No one," he said, "no one here told me this was an emergency. No one told me that. We would have been here sooner. I need oxygen. I need oxygen." And he's just yelling. He's pointing and doing what he should be doing. A wonderful woman from that crew came to me with her iPad and she was asking the right questions, which I still remember thinking, how did she know that the right questions? Tell me what meds he's on. Tell me where his oxygen was last. Tell me how much he had left. Tell me how many minutes. Tell me his heart. Tell me, and boom, boom, boom. I love that. I love she worked that way. I work that way. If you've ever worked with me, I'm like, okay, here. They were amazing, that RSW crew. And if anyone ever here is hearing me, it was I don't even remember what day it was. So 3, 2, 1. It was like the 29th of June. It was a Friday, 2024 at RSW. I'm sure they'll remember it. So many people in that airport, crowded airport, staring. They finally got a gurney. Not finally, they got a gurney. And they placed my son in it and they said, "We're going to take you to the hospital." And he said, "Yes." And I was shocked because he didn't ever want to go back to hospitals. That was the point, right? They bandaged him. We got to the hospital. Rich went and got the bags and had Aaliyah meet him for that. And then they met us over at Gulf Coast Hospital in Fort Myers, Florida. Beth. We ended up in the ER. Everyone was top notch. Again, they wrapped his legs beautifully. They got him super comfortable just by talking with him. I remember, normally, you're getting vitals and you're getting things set up and you're getting, whatever ready. And a doctor came in and looked at the nurse taking all the information and went, like, "Get out. Like, it's okay. You don't need to do this stuff." And I looked at the doctor and he looked at me like, "We know what's going on. We all know what's going on. We don't need all of this stuff." And then he sat with us, with Cam, and said, "Listen, bud, forgot how he put it, but we're just gonna have you comfortable for the night if you're okay with that. We want you transferred home, but we understand, Hope Hospice is going to be taking over, and no one is able to get here at this time because it was getting late. Are you okay? But I promise you're going to have an easy night. We're not going to do anything. If you don't want blood work, you don't need blood work. And Cameron just smiled and he's like, okay. And from the ER, they brought us up to, I believe it was the cardiac floor. My kids would remember. I think it was floor 4 or 5. I don't remember. And I do remember his young nurse, a male nurse, about my son's age. So 30, 31. And he walked in, and he and another nurse were so beautiful with my son. Again, they cleaned him. He hadn't been cleaned for a month in the hospital in Northwestern. I was cleaning him. And when I left to get some things and Rich and come back, another story. I know everyone's busy, but they cleaned him at Gulf Coast. And they cleaned his hair, they washed his face, they washed his entire body down, they wrapped his legs again. His male nurse started talking to him about games and gaming, and what's your favorite game? Really? Oh my gosh, dude, I did this, and da, da. And then he's like, hey man, like you're the king, like whatever you want, you just tell me. I mean it. Whatever you want, I'm looking up to you, and I'm so glad you're here. And my son smiled, and you could just, like, it was out of 31 years of hospital since he was 2 days old. I believe that was the best hospital stay he ever had. And I stayed all night, of course. I never left my son's side. And my daughters were there as well, his sisters. We were all making arrangements, when his partner Nick was going to come down, and Brandon and Liz. And so, yeah, I was thinking of him at the airport all day yesterday while I was stuck, or not stuck. It was nice to just sort of be there, relax, nothing to do, right? Can't do anything. But how brave he was. And that also carried me through, I was so tired. And, but I thought, this is nothing compared to what Cameron went through. This is nothing. I can handle this, really. And, but yeah, Gulf Coast emergency room, Beth, and Ron, top notch. The cardiac floor, top notch. The cardiac floor, the next morning before he was discharged, Hope Hospice came in and met us formally. I remember one of the nurses at Gulf Coast on that floor walked in, and she said, "How long have you had that cough?" And I said, "What cough?" I didn't even realize, like, I was really out of it for a while. Like, and she said, "I've been hearing you cough. Are you sure you're okay?" And I'm just like, I probably just really tired. I haven't slept in over a month. I'm fine. I look at my son like, I'm fine. And later found out I had COVID. Um, what a time. What a time. So thank you to Gulf Coast Hospital in Fort Myers, Florida. Thank you for the ER team. Thank you for RSW's emergency crew. Just, there's so many people involved that Friday. And so, yeah, Hope Hospice transferred him home Saturday. Like I said, that's another story we'll talk about another time. They were great. The HOA I was in was not even a bit. And yeah, no wonder you say Cameron Strong. What an experience. Yeah. Yep. That's why I say Cameron Strong. It's one of the reasons. Thanks, Greg. One of the reasons for sure. I'll never forget him as they're wheeling him away at the airport. This whole scene you can imagine. because they're grabbing oxygen. I'm trying to plug in the portable one to get it going again, and he's weeping, and we're all like, "Duh, duh, 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 you do this, you do that, call this one, call that one, get a gurney." They wheeled him away. I see his thumb. Like, it's okay. uh, so yeah, and if anyone asks, no, we couldn't put Ted socks, compression socks on him because coming from the hospital, his legs were already pretty swollen, and he just was like, no. And what would I have done? But I did talk to Spirit Airlines a few times, and their protocol is you wait. For me as a human, you just talked to me. I told you we have only this much time left. We had just enough time on that portable oxygen tank to land and to get, because she even said, "Oh, you've got just enough time. You get off." And yep, but she never said we'd have to wait for the entire plane to exit. And I remember there was a couple behind us, sitting behind us. A woman at one point looked at me when they were getting ready to exit, and she said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "We will." And she looked at Cameron, and she said, "God bless your son. I'll be thinking of you. I'll be praying." And I said, "Thank you. That was just the nicest thing." So yeah, I'm tired. I'm in bed. Um, yeah, it is crazy. Yeah, I thought he was going to be the first to get off. As I said, we were the first to go on, and they double checked with us, and I had called before, and I mean, aren't you supposed to radio ahead to RSW and let them know? And then they were like, "Oh, you need a wheelchair?" Like no one had any clue at all. And I remember them asking me, "What wheelchair?" What? And this is the people who bring on the wheelchairs. Like, "What wheelchair would you like?" I'm like, I didn't know there was multiple wheelchairs. We need to get him off. We need to get him off. And yeah, did not know I'm the one that got him off that plane. I'm still to this day shocked. You hear of the adrenaline rushing for everyone, stories of people lifting cars, getting children out from underneath or whatever. And yeah, yeah, I know. I didn't think it made sense either, but they, legally, that's the way it is. You wait until everyone exits. So, best laid plans. But he was okay. He was very, very strong. And so I thought of him while I was at Raleigh Durham all day and all night. And when I got home at 4 a.m., I literally collapsed in this bed, set my alarm so I could get up and talk to all of y'all. But yeah, so, and it doesn't negate the fact that if you have, excuse me, a hard time or a hard physical time with something, well, I have to be okay because, Cameron was okay. You can still say this is terrible. You can still say this hurts. It's all the same. Like grief is all the same, right? Um, it's all love, it's all grief, it's all pain. But for me personally, yeah, Cameron's the strongest person I know. And I can't wait to see him again someday. And Cameron, I'll see you in a minute. Uh, but it's not today. God must have a purpose for all of us today. So go out and find that purpose, even if it's just pulling down a can of peas from a store for someone who can't reach. Just go at it and have the best day today. And I am going back to bed. So if I know how to turn this off, I don't know. See you later. Oh, and I have sessions available still today. Can't remember the times, but maryrosmedium.com, you'll find it. And thank you all. See ya.